New footage just changed everything. A new angle shows J.C. Sheldon clearly kneeing Caitlin Clark in the groin, and the ref standing right there, doing nothing.
Look, J.C. Sheldon knees CC in the groin.
The WNBA has a massive problem, and it just exploded on live television. What you're about to see is Caitlin Clark completely losing her cool with a referee in a way we've never witnessed before. The footage is shocking, the confrontation is real, and what Clark said has the entire basketball world talking. Before we break down this insane moment that has everyone questioning WNBA officiating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, with the way this season is going, you won't want to miss what happens next. TD Garden, Boston, Tuesday night, third quarter. What started as a routine review turned into one of the most explosive player-referee confrontations in recent WNBA history. The officials were checking an out-of-bounds call when Caitlin Clark and referee Michael Price began exchanging words. But this wasn't your typical disagreement. The broadcast footage shows Clark's demeanor completely change after something was said. Whatever triggered her response, it was enough to make the usually composed superstar absolutely lose it. Fever assistant coach Breon January had to physically restrain Clark as she appeared to yell, "Are you effing kidding me?" The fury in her eyes was unmistakable. But here's where it gets even crazier. Clark wasn't done, not even close. As the officials continued their review, she approached Price again. This time the cameras caught every word clearly. "That's just rude," Clark said, her voice cutting through the arena noise. "Grow up." She then motioned aggressively for Price to come closer, and when he walked away, she added, "Unbelievable!" Then came the moment that nobody saw coming. Clark made a phone gesture with her hand and said loud enough for the courtside microphones to pick up, "I will be calling the league on you." Let that sink in. The face of the WNBA was so frustrated that she threatened to file a formal complaint against an official during the game. Now, based on lip readers and multiple analysts who've reviewed the footage, many believe Price may have said something about Clark's performance in the game, possibly suggesting she was taking out her frustrations on him. While we can't confirm exactly what was said, Clark's reaction suggests it crossed a professional line. This incident didn't happen in a vacuum. It's the latest chapter in what's becoming an increasingly troubling pattern of questionable officiating in WNBA games, particularly those involving the Indiana Fever. And the numbers back this up. Let's talk about what else happened in this game that makes Clark's explosion even more understandable. Her teammate Sophie Cunningham took a deliberate elbow to the head from Connecticut's Layla Lacan. The replay footage is crystal clear. Lacan looks over at Cunningham, sees her position, and throws the elbow directly at her head. The referee was standing just feet away with a perfect view. The call, "Nothing, absolutely nothing." Cunningham got up, shook her head, and according to her post-game social media, asked the official, "Hey, did you see that?" But here's the kicker. Cunningham later revealed the refs told her she flopped. They acknowledged seeing the contact, but claimed she was faking being hurt. An elbow to the head, and they called it flopping. This gets even more ridiculous. Later in the same game, Cunningham is driving baseline when a Connecticut defender body checks her completely out of bounds. It's as obvious a blocking foul as you'll ever see in basketball. The call, simple out of bounds, Fever loses possession. Cunningham's reaction says everything. She literally laughed at how absurd the non-call was. And this isn't just about one game. WNBA legend Rebecca Lobo was calling the Fever Wings game just days earlier and couldn't hold back her frustration. As Clark tried to play through constant contact, Lobo was practically doing play-by-play of uncalled fouls. "There's a grab, there's a hold, there's another grab," she said on the ESPN broadcast. I mean, all of those are fouls, every single one of them. When your own broadcasters are calling out the officiating on live television, you know something is seriously wrong. And Lobo isn't just some random commentator. She's a Hall of Famer who knows the game inside and out. The pattern is undeniable. Since entering the league, Clark has dealt with an unprecedented level of physical play that routinely goes uncalled. She's been poked in the eye, resulting in a black eye that made headlines. She had her eardrum ruptured from a hit to the head. She's been hip-checked into scorers' tables, grabbed on nearly every drive, and held on off-ball movements that would be automatic fouls for other players. Here's what makes this even more frustrating. The statistics tell the story. Despite being one of the most attacked players in the league, Clark averages fewer free throw attempts than guards who face half the defensive pressure. Players who primarily shoot jump shots are getting more foul calls than someone who's constantly driving to the basket and getting hammered. The systemic issues run deep. Unlike the NBA, where referees are full-time employees making six-figure salaries, WNBA officials are contractors paid per game. They spend October through March calling college games with completely different rules, then switch to the WNBA and apparently forget basic foul calls. It's like asking someone to switch between driving on the left and right side of the road and expecting perfection. The technology gap is equally glaring. The NBA has a state-of-the-art replay center in Secaucus, New Jersey, where neutral officials review controversial calls. The WNBA? The same referees who made the questionable call review their own work courtside. No accountability, no oversight. Just, we investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong. There's also no transparency. The NBA publishes last 2-minute reports for close games, acknowledging missed calls and holding officials accountable. The WNBA? Complete radio silence. Coaches who complain get fined. Players who speak up face punishment. Just ask Stephanie White, Clark's coach, who received a technical foul and fine for defending her players against bad calls. Clark reportedly offered to pay the fine herself. That's how fed up this team has become. Tuesday's game should have been a showcase. Fever versus Sun, two competitive teams, national television audience. Instead, it became a referendum on WNBA officiating. The officials spent so long reviewing that out-of-bounds call, which they initially got wrong and had to overturn, that Clark had time for multiple confrontations and still managed to threaten league action. What's particularly damaging is this happened right before All-Star Weekend, when the league should be celebrating its growth and talent. Instead, the conversation is dominated by whether referees are biased against the league's most marketable player. That's not exactly the narrative you want when trying to attract new fans and corporate sponsors. The irony is thick. Caitlin Clark has done more for WNBA visibility in 2 seasons than most do in entire careers. She's brought mainstream media attention, attracted Fortune 500 sponsors, and filled arenas that were half empty before she arrived. Television ratings spike whenever she plays. Social media engagement explodes with her highlights. She is quite literally the golden goose. And how does the league's officiating crew treat her? By allowing opponents to use her as a punching bag while telling her not to complain about it. By missing obvious fouls while calling phantom violations. By creating an environment where she needs to threaten formal complaints just to be heard. The psychological toll can't be ignored. Clark left Tuesday's game in tears after re-aggravating a groin injury. But how many of these injuries stem from constantly bracing for uncalled contact? When you know officials won't protect you, you play differently. You're tighter, more defensive, more prone to awkward movements that cause injuries. Sophie Cunningham's treatment is equally concerning. After standing up for Clark in previous games, she's become a target herself. The message from officials seems clear. Defend Caitlin Clark and you'll pay for it too. That's not basketball. It's intimidation disguised as officiating. Even other teams' fans and analysts are noticing the pattern. This isn't just Fever supporters complaining about calls. National media members, former players, current coaches from other teams, they're all pointing out the obvious bias. When your officiating is so noticeably bad that even competitors are calling it out, you've lost all credibility. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires the WNBA to acknowledge the problem exists. First, hire full-time professional referees who are invested in the league's success, not contractors juggling multiple leagues with different rules. Second, implement an independent review system for controversial calls. Third, publish transparency reports like the NBA does. Fourth, protect star players instead of allowing them to be targeting practice. But here's the thing, this isn't about giving Caitlin Clark special treatment. It's about calling games fairly and consistently. It's about referees doing their jobs without bias or agenda. It's about letting the best basketball players in the world actually play basketball instead of mixed martial arts. The conversation between Clark and Price, based on analysis of the footage, appears to have included Price making some comment about Clark's game performance. If true, that's completely out of bounds for an official. Referees are there to enforce rules, not provide commentary on player performance or suggest players are complaining because they're having a bad game. Clark's threat to call the league wasn't an empty one. This is a player who understands her value and isn't afraid to use it. She generates more revenue, attracts more fans, and creates more buzz than any other WNBA player. When she says she's calling the commissioner's office, you better believe someone's phone will ring. The timing couldn't be worse for the league. The WNBA is experiencing unprecedented growth, largely fueled by the Caitlin Clark effect. Attendance records are falling, television deals are expanding, merchandise sales are soaring. But what are new fans seeing when they tune in? Games where the biggest star gets mugged while referees swallow their whistles. This Tuesday night meltdown should serve as a wake-up call for Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the entire league office. When your marquee player is threatening formal complaints mid-game, when coaches are physically restraining players from confronting officials, when obvious fouls go uncalled while phantom violations get whistled, you don't have an officiating problem. You have a crisis that threatens the integrity of your product. The most frustrating part? This was a game Indiana won. They overcame the bad officiating to secure victory. But imagine if a crucial bad call had cost them the game. Actually, we don't need to imagine. It's happened before and will happen again unless something changes. What happened in Boston wasn't just bad officiating. It was a breaking point for a superstar who's tired of being target practice with no protection. It was a coach having to physically restrain her best player from getting ejected for calling out incompetence. It was teammates like Sophie Cunningham taking elbows to the head and being told they're flopping. As we've broken down this shocking confrontation, one thing becomes crystal clear. The WNBA has a choice to make. They can continue allowing their referees to ruin what should be the golden age of women's basketball, or they can implement real changes that protect players and ensure fair competition. Based on what we saw Tuesday night, with Clark threatening to go over the referees' heads directly to the league office, the clock is ticking on how long this situation can continue. Because if the WNBA loses Caitlin Clark's faith in their ability to protect her, they risk losing everything she's brought to the league. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more coverage. And trust me, the way this season is going, we'll have plenty more controversial calls to analyze. Who knows? Maybe next time we'll actually see referees call a foul when someone elbows Sophie Cunningham in the head. But honestly, I wouldn't bet on it. The ball is in the WNBA's court now. The question is, will they answer Caitlin Clark's call?